having been called a designer of monsters when I didn't think I'd actually earned the title yet. And this exercise in prioritization of what I was going to work on next made me think, yeah, all right, so I've talked about designing lairs. Now let's talk about designing monsters.
Welcome to Tabletop Talk, the podcast where I delve into the minds of tabletop gaming creatives. Join me as I uncover their creative process and inspirations. You are in the right place if you enjoy listening to thoughtful interviews with creative people.
This is Barney from Parable Games. When I'm not making terrifying role-playing games, I'm listening to Tabletop Talk.
Howdy friends, Craig here. My guest today is Keith Ammann. Keith is an Emmy Award-winning writer based in Chicago. He's been a role player and a game master for more than 30 years. He enjoys playing outwardly abrasive helpers, out of their element helpers, reluctant helpers, and genuinely nice, helpful helpers. Mostly, though, he plays non-player characters and, of course, monsters. Keith, welcome to the third floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
So, Keith, when we got connected, I was super happy. So I've got like a hit list of people that like, if my podcast is going to be complete, these are the people that at some point I need to book. And it was nice not to have to do the chase. We just kind of met in the middle, which I very much appreciate. But I have to apologize in advance because I'm going to ask you the question that you've been asked on every stupid podcast that you've been a guest on. But I want to try to word it just a little bit differently. So at one point, Keith, you knew nothing about role-playing, knew nothing about having a sheet of paper in front of you, some funky dice, and pretending to be somebody else. But it was put in front of you for the first time. Can we go back there?
Sure. And I should clarify, the way you phrased it, it was a gradual process.
Oh, tell me.
I first found out about Dungeons and Dragons from an article in Games Magazine. I believe it was the September-October 1979 issue. I was 10 years old, and I read the description of this new kind of game, and it sounded incredible. And I asked my mother to get me the basic set, which she did. Nice. I opened it up, and we tried to figure out what we were supposed to do with it, and we had no luck at all. We did not figure it out. And it took me a while to find other people who had received the lore. You know, back in those days, there's no internet. There's, your average middle schooler is not plugged into the postal mimeograph circuit, not attending wargaming conventions. So, so word of mouth moved at a trickle, and it took me a while to hook up with people who did in fact know what they were doing with these things.
When did that first happen?
Well, it wasn't until around 1986 that I finally got into a group of peers who were playing the game in more or less a competent fashion, like actually doing something beyond just making characters and then wondering where we were supposed to go from there. I got really involved in it my senior year of high school and the summer afterward, with a core group of 4 of us playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, first edition. And that was where things really took off. That was where I actually began to understand and appreciate and play the game for real. Now, but you mentioned like rolling the funny dice. When I received my Holmes Blue Box beginning D&D set, that was not the first time I had seen those dice, because my mom, she was not a teacher, but she used to receive these educational supply catalogs at our house, and they included polyhedral dice.
No shit.
And I had seen those dice in the catalog. And the ones that I received in the Holmes Blue Box set were the exact same dice.
Isn't that something?
That were advertised in that teacher supply catalog. Yeah, they must have been sourced from the same manufacturer.
Oh, that's super interesting. Like, I didn't even know. This is me being an idiot. I didn't even know that, like, it was used before. Like, I didn't know D8s had existed before then. So that's interesting.
I don't know what they were used for. For teaching platonic solids, for teaching probability math.
Oh, that's interesting.
Who knows? But they were the exact same, even the same colors. That same exact kind of plastic, the sharp edges, the yellow D4, the pink D6, the blue D12.
Isn't our memory amazing how, like, details like that, which are more than a few decades away from us, Keith, how we remember the colors of the frickin' dice. That blows my mind. We're finishing up high school. You've got a core group of 4 people. You are in a way that you're playing your version of D&D, right? Because I think back then too, everybody was playing their own little version of the game and how it was interpreted among the play group. If we pause here for a second and think, when you look back now, when you consider how much of, your adult life this hobby has taken and, a lot of your creative journey has involved that. When we go back to high school, Keith, what do you think it was that caused that hook to get set there at the end of your high school?
Well, I think I had been wanting to be involved with this game pretty much ever since I had been exposed to it. Ever since I had found out about it in the first place, there was that ongoing desire to play it, to engage with it, and when I finally found people who could give me that experience, I leapt at it. I'm very grateful to my parents who were happy to allow me to stay up very, very late on some weekends doing this stuff. I mean, I think they were, I think the way they looked at it was, if I was engaging in this creative activity in a friend's, finished attic, it meant I wasn't out on the street getting into some other kind of trouble. So yay that. Yeah, and one of the really nice things about that particular group, aside from just being some good people, and some very, very creative people, is that we rotated who sat in the DM seat.
Oh, wow.
We each had a character, a member of the party, but we each played our own character as an NPC when we were DMing. And so my friend Julian DM'd first, then my friend Matt, then my friend Byrne, and then I did it. So I batted cleanup. I had the benefit of having watched 3 other people demonstrate how they would handle the DM role. And so when it came my turn, I was able to draw on all of that, add a little bit of my own stuff. Here's a really, really funny thing. I basically invented Goliaths.
Do tell.
They were reinvented later by someone else with whom I had no contact at all. But in that time, I was looking at the pictures of the different folk and thinking, why are humans the tallest ones?
Right.
Why do we have these different folk that you can play in the game and all of them are shorter than humans? Maybe there should be a taller one. Maybe they live up in the mountains. The name I gave to them was, I called them Yates.
Interesting.
And I got the name by messing around with the Swedish word for giant.
Interesting.
Which is Yet.
And that's where Yeti comes from too, I believe, right?
I don't know. I have no idea. I would have assumed Yeti came from some Himalayan
I have no
language.
idea.
But now I got to look. Now I got to look that up because you made me curious. I'm total language freak. Total linguistics freak. Love it, love it, love it, love it. But so I made. I called them Yates.
Right.
And when I ran my adventure with this group, they encountered one and had some interaction, and then went on to the real story. But yeah, I came up with that idea in like 1987.
And in parallel, someone else came up with Goliath, gave you no credit, Keith, and yet,
Oh, I don't begrudge it.
So
it's not like I ever thought to write it down, send it to Dragon Magazine or anything like that. If I'd actually if I had cared at all about getting credit for any of this stuff, maybe. But I was there. I had an audience of 3.
That's the only audience that mattered.
4 if you count myself.
Right. So here's an interesting idea for me, Keith. So let's pretend I can get in a time machine and watch you run 2 sessions. Young Keith DMing straight out of high school. And then I break into your house next week and watch you DM now. Obviously, a lot's changed. You have changed a lot as a DM. I'd be curious to know what hasn't changed. So when you look back at how you ran games at the very beginning, what has stayed true for you even now?
The foundational thing is envy.
Oh, tell me, what does that mean?
Now, I say that tongue in cheek.
Right.
My friend Julian is he's still a very good friend of mine today.
Nice.
We still even play together. We live a couple of miles apart now. He just had this incredibly fertile, original imagination. He came up with stuff I could not imagine a brain coming up with. And here I am thinking, well, how am I going to top that? What am I going to do that's going to be half as good as what he came up with? And long story short, I have never tried to be that original.
Ooh, interesting.
I don't try. I know that is not my area of strength.
Right.
What is my area of strength is what you might call systems thinking.
Okay.
So I look at a dungeon, and it's got, numbered locations, and there are monsters that inhabit these locations, and I'm asking myself, what is this monster doing here? What is its purpose here? What does it do when it's not here? Is it in contact with other monsters in the dungeon? What is its life when the PCs are not encountering it? And what kind of dynamics exist in this greater space where different monsters, different groups of monsters may encounter one another, may interact with one another, may hunt one another, feed on one another. What all's going on? The idea of a dungeon or other adventure location, not as a static set piece whose pieces don't start moving until the PC shows up, but as a story already in progress into which the PCs intrude. Even then, I had that. I knew that was the ground on which I was going to compete. Verisimilitude. And that has always stuck with me, regardless of what game I was running, regardless of what system I was running.
So, and you may not know the answer to this, do you think those 3 other high schoolers understood what you were doing and recognized what was happening, that you had put that amount of thought into it? Or were they idiot high schoolers like I was?
I should ask Julian. I'm not in touch with the other 2 anymore, unfortunately.
It'd be interesting to know if it felt different, right?
I would love to be back in touch with them if they're listening out there. But I'm not. So I don't know. Next time I talk to Julian, I'll ask him.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, right, to see whether that's recognizable, especially back then, let alone now. So what if we look at the signposts here, right, that gets us through from your gaming career? Obviously, Dungeons and Dragons has, I would assume, been a big part of it the entire time. But what are some other big signposts?
You would think so, but it has not
Then
been.
talk to me.
When I went away to college, I played a little bit of D&D in college, but I was already starting to get a little dissatisfied with aspects of it that I felt like were too fantastical.
Interesting.
Almost. I've always had kind of I don't want to say love-hate because that's not true. That doesn't describe it accurately. But I guess you could say I've always been a little bit in tension with the idea of adventurers as semi-indestructible superheroes. Right. Even in AD&D, like if you were low level at the levels we were playing at, adventuring was risky. You know, you could get yourself killed. But it was also visible that if you got high enough level, ordinary things could no longer hurt you. And I used to joke that, you know, you could play a dwarf fighter of a high enough level, slaughter a dozen orcs, drink a glass of poison, jump off a cliff, land at the bottom, get up, and fight another dozen orcs without breaking a sweat. Right. And in college, I discovered Shadowrun.
Ooh, okay.
And one of the things that grabbed me about Shadowrun is that everyone had 10 hit points. Right. They didn't call them hit points, but that's what you had. You had 10 blocks on your health bar and another 10 on your fatigue bar. And if you lost all 10 of those blocks, you were dead. Or at least imminently dying. It might be easier or harder to take those blocks away from you. But in the end, you had 10.
Right.
And that felt more real to me. Always pursuing verisimilitude. That felt more real. And so I pretty much abandoned D&D at that point to play Shadowrun exclusively. First edition, second edition. Then I graduated from college and life happened. I moved away from the college town. I no longer had a group to play with. And for the next decade or so, role-playing gaming completely fell off my radar. Right. I didn't have anyone to do it with. I tried getting with one group at one point. I didn't like the style of game they were playing, and I just walked away from it. I got very into German-style board games during those years, and that took my time and money. And it was easier to find people to play those with too, you know, because they were really enjoying a boom. And I didn't get back into role-playing gaming until, I want to say 2002, 2003. It was around the time that Firefly came out.
Oh, okay.
I remember that because the group I was with then, which included Julian and a couple of other people that he had met, we all watched the premiere of Firefly together. We all watched Cowboy Bebop together and stuff like that. And we were playing GURPS in a fantasy vein. Right. We were using GURPS to play fantasy. Instead of, I guess it probably would have been D&D 3rd edition at the time. Maybe 3.5 had already come along. I don't know. I never did anything with it. And when that group broke up, it only lasted a year or two, I fell out of role-playing gaming again and didn't get back in until 2015. Had a new spouse. She had been talking with her coworkers who had gotten the idea that they wanted to play a Dungeons and Dragons game, and she said, "Well, I'm pretty sure my husband knows how to DM. I'll ask him if he wants to do it." And I actually was going to say, all right, well, I'll put together a GURPS fantasy campaign. And she's like, no, they want to play Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to play Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, well, okay. I'm going to have to learn that again because I haven't played Dungeons and Dragons since 1990.
Yeah.
So, might have even been 1989. I forget what year Shadowrun First Edition came out. So I went down the block to a little game store that had opened up nearby, bought the starter set, was flipping through it, and I was like, okay. Number one, there's something to this.
Ooh, interesting.
Number two, the kind of game I'm going to want to play. I didn't come out of the Holmes Blue Box set.
Right.
See, that was the first set I got. But what I played was AD&D.
Right.
So I looked at the stuff in the starter set and I'm like, okay, well, to play the kind of game I want to play, to run the kind of game I want to run, I'm going to need more than this. So I went out and got the other core books right off the bat. And as I introduced myself to 5th edition D&D, I developed a real appreciation for it
that's super
because
interesting.
I thought, okay, this gives the feel that I used to get from D&D back when I played, but the headaches are gone. I don't have to look anything up on tables. Right. Armor class goes up instead of down. You know, all kinds of things. Advantage and disadvantage. What a brilliant idea. So simple, so nice. No juggling, stacks of modifiers. And so I took to it immediately. I really, really dug it from the get-go. Now,
for a lot of people, they look at 5e and they see it as that power fantasy, right? As unkillable heroes pretty quickly. Did you not get that feel from it and didn't run it that way, or how did you square that circle?
No, here's the thing. I saw 5e and I did see, okay, yeah, we're back to playing fantasy superheroes.
Right.
But what the hell? I can roll with that for a while.
Yeah.
That was basically it. Now I do to this day appreciate that version of 5th edition, that the 2014 version of 5th edition, can accommodate a really wide range of play styles. It is not steering you or channeling you into one true way to play the game. I think it was deliberately designed to accommodate every way that people had played D&D up to that point. And I think it succeeded at that very admirably. And so, yeah, I continue to have tremendous appreciation for what they did in developing that edition.
So we've got AD&D, we've got Shadowrun that kind of takes over your life for a period of time. We come back to 5th edition. Any other games that you look at that you consider like big games for you, or do you think that we've hit on them?
I mean, those are the milestones. Right. In more recent years, I've tried to branch out as much as I can, which is hard to do running a continuous D&D game for. Our main group lasted 6 years.
That's impressive.
I should say our main campaign lasted 6 years because I'm still playing with the same people most Wednesday nights. It's just a different campaign now. We played Lost Mine of Phandelver and the entire Tyranny of Dragons arc with the first set of PCs. Then we did Curse of Strahd. From Curse of Strahd, we took those characters into Monty Cook Games' The Darkest House to continue the horror theme. Then we kind of put that one on a hiatus. Now we're playing Rime of the Frost Maiden. I had a separate group that played Tomb of Annihilation. And so that's a lot of D&D.
Yeah.
And I've been, writing a lot about D&D and such. And so my opportunities to play other systems have been relatively few.
Yeah.
I have played the most recent edition of Call of Cthulhu with Chris Spivey's Harlem Unbound, which is a beautiful
God,
work.
that's a great book.
I'm slightly obsessed with trying to find the next GURPS because I feel like GURPS itself is a little bit too much of its time.
I
It
agree.
feels dated now.
It does.
And as much as I love the idea of the everything system, I just think unless and until they come up with a GURPS 5th edition, that one has kind of run its course for now. But I think the Cypher system is a pretty worthy successor. It's not perfect, but I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy the things you can do with it. And so I started a game that was okay. So going back a little bit to the GURPS years, we did our fantasy adventure, and then I was like, "Hey, I've got an idea." Now, the idea I had was this weird time travel romp that began in 1903 St. Petersburg, Russia, and did all kinds of wacky stuff. I'm obsessed with mashups. I love mashing things up. Genre mashing, so I'm doing like part historical, part time travel, science fiction, fantasy. Shadowrun, what is it? It's a mashup of fantasy and cyberpunk, Give me something that's neither fish nor fowl, and I'm already halfway sold. So what I did with Cypher is I want to play League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Nice.
That's what I want to do. Like, I want to take these 19th century literary characters and make them like secretly semi-quasi superheroes. And and by gum, you can do that
Sure
in Cypher. It's awesome. So, like Julian was in that game. For instance, he played Ebenezer Scrooge, who can still actually talk to spirits.
Amazing.
My wife played Estella Havisham, trained to kill by her mother.
Yes.
By her adoptive mother. Another member of our group played Septimus Pretorius, the mad scientist from Bride of Frankenstein. Right. So it was awesome while it lasted. And then I kind of painted myself into a narrative corner due to some of the deficiencies of my source material. But it was great while it lasted.
Yeah.
And let's see, what else have we played? We've done some Shadow Dark.
Oh, nice.
We've done Knave, a little bit of Knave. Yep. When I burned out on DMing for a while and needed a break, one of my players stepped in and ran a Knave game, which was fun. Court of Blades, which is a very nice Blades in the Dark hack by
I'm very good
Sean and
friends
Navi
with
Drake.
the Drakes, and that is a beautiful piece of work. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, I really, really like Blades in the Dark.
Yeah, me too.
I like Court of Blades even more because
it's a neat world.
The
the intrigue and feel that Sean and Navi put into that, while still keeping the heart of Blades, it's right now my favorite hack of Blades. And I think in its own way, so when I talk to people about Blades in the Dark, they're like, yeah, I don't really like the idea of kind of this cyberpunk fantasy world. I'm like, well, then just do Quarter Blades. Problem solved.
Except it's not really cyberpunk.
Or not cyberpunk. I'm sorry. Steampunk.
It's
Steampunk
Dishonored.
Is what
It's what it is.
Dishonored. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. Yeah, Quarter Blades. I'm a huge fan of Quarter Blades. So that's very cool. The Insider Insight series allows me to sit down with designers, developers, artists, writers, and creators and learn how they approach their work. I try to understand their process, inspiration, and the methods for crafting their creations. We obviously have a lot to talk about when we get back from this break. We're going to find out where the ideas behind the Monsters Know What They're Doing came from.
Are you looking for a D&D podcast with a dark side? Something more like Game of Thrones and less like Monty Python? Tale of the Manticore is part dark fantasy audio drama, part solo D&D RPG. There's no plot armor here. The dice make all the important decisions. Join me as I resurrect the excitement, wonder, and emotion of old school D&D. Made for a mature audience, Tale of the Manticore is both a fiction and a game. It's the story where chaos rolls.
So you talked about, Keith, kind of a couple times where you took pauses and you came back to the hobby a few times. I did something very similar, except I did one long stint. So around in college, I kind of lost the play group, kind of lost interest in the hobby, came back at COVID. And that Rumpelstiltskin period was unbelievable because of how much had happened in the hobby since then, right? I left D&D and GURPS and came back to Blades in the Dark and Powered by the Apocalypse and things like that. And one of my early purchases, and it was the title alone, was your book, The Monsters Know What They're Doing. I'm going to read the little blurb about it, so for those that may be not familiar with it, they understand what we're talking about, and then I want to figure out where the hell this came from. A dungeon master must make one decision after another in response to player behavior. And the better the players, the more unpredictable their behavior. It's easy for an experienced DM to get bogged down in the on-the-spot decision-making or let combat devolve into a boring slugfest with enemies running directly at the player characters and biting and bashing and slashing away. This book lightens the DM's burden by helping you understand your monster's abilities and develop the battle plans before your game session begins. So it's been a little bit since this book was first part of your life, and I want to go back to maybe the day before. So when you look back now and you knew what would become this first book, what was going on?
I didn't know what would become this first book because I did not set out to write a book.
Interesting.
So in my long and winding road, I have been, among other things, a journalist. I worked for 10 years as a copy editor, 5 of those years as a news feature and column writer for an alternative news weekly. And so I've been a language professional for a very long time. And around 2016, I was feeling like I needed to reestablish writing regularly as a daily practice. Right. Which, because of the journalism market I had not been in for quite a while.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe I'll start a blog. Now, also around that time, we had begun our D&D campaign, our 5th edition campaign, with Lost Mine of Phandelver. And spoiler alert for anyone who might be playing Lost Mine of Phandelver 10 years later. You begin with Cragmaw Cave and the goblins. Well, first you begin with the goblin encounter on the road, and then you go to Cragmaw Cave. I had run those encounters and felt like something was really missing from them. You know, here I am, Mr. Verisimilitude. I want everything to feel like, yes, of course, this is the way it had to be. You know, this is what goblins are like. I don't feel like this combat taught my players what goblins are like. I don't even feel like I fully understand what goblins are like. Like, why goblins? Why are they here?
Right.
Are they just cannon fodder, or is this something more? Is there something more to this? Next time I run goblins, how can I make them feel like goblins? What am I missing?
Mm-hmm.
And the process of going through the goblin stat block line by line and asking myself, all right, what does this tell me about goblins? What does this tell me about goblins? What does that tell me about goblins? And just breaking it down like that helped me understand what I should have been doing with goblins in combat. And the key, the fulcrum point on which it was all balanced is nimble escape. That is the heart of the goblin.
Right.
And once I understood that changed everything in my mind. So I thought, well, this was a cool exercise. What if I made my blog about doing this with as many monsters as I can? And I was very mindful at the time that I did not want to be one of these bloggers who who writes their first 2 or 3 things and then you never hear from them again for 7 months. So I wrote 21 articles.
Whoa!
Might have been 20. Was it 21? It might have been only 15. But I wrote 3 weeks worth of enough to post every weekday for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And then every time I posted one, I wrote one.
Right.
And so for the first several months of that blog, I was able to publish daily. And so I built up a really nice corpus of articles.
So I understand real quick though, Keith. So I understand, the need to write, right? That you wanted to get back to writing and the blog presented that opportunity. What was the target though, right? So what was the purpose of the blog? So we talk about all these articles. Is the focus where we're headed now? Is it you saying this is the heart of goblins and things like that? Or can you give me an idea of what those first articles were like?
I mean, the purpose was to share my thinking with whoever felt they could benefit from it, really. It was kind of an altruistic endeavor. I mean, it wasn't entirely altruistic because I was flexing I was exercising my writing muscles, but I was writing just to write.
Okay.
And sharing just to share.
Yep.
And I became aware after a while that people were actually beginning to use my blog articles as reference material.
Interesting.
Which was surprising and gratifying.
Yeah.
And so I kept at it. And one day, out of the blue, I get an email from a book editor asking me, have I ever considered turning this material into a book?
And what was your initial answer?
Well, my initial reaction was to try to confirm that I was not being scammed.
True. Yep.
Because who gets emails like that out of the blue except from people who are trying to scam you? Does this guy even exist?
Right.
I want to confirm that before I reply.
Yeah.
Turned out he did exist and was in fact a book editor and was in fact like offering me a book deal. And my first reply was like, yeah, I thought about it. I decided against it. But I have this self-published ebook, Live to Tell the Tale, which is a guide for players, that maybe we could turn that into a book. He's like, we want the monsters know. We can do this as a 2-book deal. I mean, it almost is embarrassing how much I had to be dragged kicking
funny?
and screaming to success.
So now we say, okay, we've got a book deal. Do we just take articles and paste them together? What's the next step once you realize now I'm going to make a book or write a book? Or compile a
Well,
book.
first of all, I had to identify the gaps.
Interesting.
Because I had not covered every single monster in the monster manual. I had done all the ones that were interesting to me and then gone on to Volos.
Right.
So I had to go back and fill in some of the gaps. I didn't fill in every single gap because there are some monsters you just cannot make interesting, no matter how you try.
Yep.
There are no tactics involved in running a troglodyte.
Right.
There just aren't. A troglodyte is it just comes at you and you know, the only unique trait it has is stench, and that's a passive.
Right.
So so nobody needs my help running a troglodyte. It's actually kind of amazing to me how many emails I've gotten over the years from people saying, you didn't include the troglodyte. What can you tell me about that? Nothing, man. Nothing you can't figure out for yourself.
That was on purpose.
It's right there. You know, there is no problem to be solved here.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot of cleanup
Right.
because my understanding of the rules was initially imperfect and took some honing over time. There were some, there were some just errors, oversights, faulty conclusions that I drew. I mean, even now, honestly, I would not take my own advice from that book for running whites.
Interesting.
Because I messed that one up. And we just never figured out how I'd messed it up until later on. I tried to use it myself to run whites, and I'm like, ooh, this doesn't work. Yeah, I better try something else here. When I did the creature cards for Beetle and Grimm, I took that opportunity to re-examine whites and say, okay, yeah, the advice I gave before was not right. Let's see if I can get it right this time.
So Keith, real quick.
So there was,
please,
yeah,
go.
so there was revision, there was compilation, and scut work like indexing and things like that. But basically it was compilation and revision.
Yeah. Now, it was neat to hear you talk about kind of your revelation with goblins, right? So you were struggling with goblins. You said there's got to be more here. You sat down and kind of created your approach and methodology, which you refined over time of breaking that down. Can you think of another monster that was oh, wow. Like once you want
The Zorn.
Tell me.
The Zorn. The Zorn is the best.
Tell me.
The Zorn was one I had not written about on the blog until I got to the book and was tying off loose ends. And I started looking at it, and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, there's some crazy things you could do with the Zorn, because the Zorn has Earth Glide. The Zorn's mouth and arms are on the top of its head, meaning that if it wants to, and it has tremor sense, so it knows it knows something's walking around on the ground up above it, and it can just come up and stick only its mouth and its arms up out of the ground and mess people up. And it's got 3/4 cover from the earth itself. What are you going to do against that? I think that was my favorite discovery when I was writing The Monsters Know.
So you finish the book, it gets out there. And then things start coming back. Books are reviewed, people run into you and have comments. Anything that surprised you? So when people talk about your book, either directly to you or elsewhere, was there anything that was said that really you didn't anticipate, that surprised you as you read it or heard it?
I mean, the thing that surprised me was just how popular it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a jerk way to answer the question.
No, it's not.
It makes it sound like I got a big swelled head.
No, just the opposite.
But honestly, what really surprised and continues to surprise and gratify me, is just how well received it's been. How many people come to me and say, this changed the way I think about the game.
How cool is that?
I'm still a little bowled over by it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm grateful. I'm very grateful.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to provide this service to people, you know?
And you may be the wrong person to ask this question to, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why do you think it landed so well? Why do you think it was so well received? What gap did you fill that allowed it to be so popular? Do you have a sense of that?
Well, I know what people have told me.
Yeah.
Which is that, and I guess, people have told me this, but it also reinforces the initial sense I had. People have said that we needed something like this because the Monster Manual didn't provide it.
Right.
The Monster Manual didn't tell us how we were supposed to run these monsters.
Mm-hmm.
You did. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's true, isn't it? Because I wrote it because I was trying to figure out for myself how I should be running these monsters. I didn't know, but I had the benefit of an education degree and some, recent adult experience learning how to learn.
Right.
So I could come at the question with a beginner's mind.
Yep.
And kind of build a system of analyzing and understanding it from first principles. And I will say I do have a healthy self-esteem in the area of knowing that I have a distinct voice.
Right.
And I attribute a lot of that to not just my own sparkling personality, but also the years I spent working in the alternative press, which encourages you to develop a very personal voice. And, I have not only been a writer, I have taught writing.
Yep.
I know about, the building blocks of good writing, ideas, organization, voice, very important. Word choice, sentence flow, mechanics. I mean, I used to be a copy editor.
Yep.
I got a decent grasp of all this stuff, and this is the kind of material that could really go over like a lead balloon.
Yeah.
If it didn't have the right voice. when you're talking about this kind of dry,
Yep.
mechanical, analytical stuff,
Yep.
you have to have a voice that can actually bring it to life. You have to be able to make it a conversation. Even if it's kind of a one-way conversation, you still have to be mindful that you are addressing someone, you are addressing a reader who not only needs to hear this information or wants to hear this information, but wants to hear it from someone they trust,
Yep.
whom they find interesting. So I think that gave me a little bit of an advantage in writing this kind of material.
It's funny that you say that, Keith, because I think back to when I first read the book, and I can tell you as a reader, I didn't feel like I was being told anything. I felt like I was being taught something. And that is a very different experience as I was reading. I felt that I was learning, not being lectured to, which are two very different things. So I completely understand that. So if we look at the span from the blog to the book deal to the process of, putting together the first book, releasing it, and the success, when did you know there'd be more books? Did you always know there would be more books, or when was the moment?
No, I always knew there would be at least one more because I got a 2-book deal from the get-go. I had The Monsters Know and also Live to Tell the Tale.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things that happened early in the blog is I would start to get emails from dungeon masters saying, "Oh, your blog's so great, dude. I just got my first TPK." I'm like, that is not what I was going for.
Yeah.
I am not trying to help you massacre your PCs. I'm trying to help you give them a livelier experience.
Right.
Dead is not lively. So I wrote Live to Tell the Tale initially as an ebook that I self-published and sold off my website, to basically say, okay, I taught your DM how to make this monster more interesting, and it got a little bit deadlier. So here, let me help you catch up. let me explain to you what I explained to your DM, so that you can appropriately roleplay your character's expertise in facing this threat.
For some reason, Keith, I've got this image of an arms dealer that's supplying both sides.
Yeah, I've been compared to an arms dealer selling to both sides. It's not the first time I've heard that one. But see, now when I was doing The Monsters Know, when I was compiling that into a book, on the blog, I was already into Volo's Guide to Monsters.
Right.
And obviously, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes was going to follow on that. So I kind of knew once Live to Tell the Tale was reached shelves, that my next project was going to be the sequel to The Monsters Know, which is more Monsters Know what they're doing. But that one was also part of a 2-book deal, and I had to figure out what the next book in the series was going to be. And I had at this point, when I write the blog, I am strictly doing stat block analyses for monsters in official Wizards of the Coast books.
Yep.
That's my lane. People have asked me, are you going to do Kobold Press's Tome of Foes, or are you going to do this or that or the other thing? And I'm like, there's enough material by Wizards of the Coast itself that I'm going to stick with that, because that's going to be of interest to the largest number of DMs. Just about every DM out there is going to get Fizban's Guide to Dragons. But Tome of Beasts 3, not so much.
Right.
Even Tome of Beasts 1, which would probably be a logical, thing to do, if I knew for a fact that it had outsold, say, Fizban's. but I don't know that. I'm
Yep.
not privy to any of that sales information. So I just kind of have to make my choices and roll with them. Anyway, earlier in the life of the blog, I was not quite so fussy about that, and I would occasionally dip into other topics, like I did a blog entry on retreat actions, dodge, dash, and disengage. When does it make sense to do each of those things? And I did one that was just sort of some random musings on concepts related to defensible space. I was a sociology minor, so Oscar Newman. And have you ever seen the movie Training Day?
Oh, yeah.
You know that scene when they're driving into the project on the cul-de-sac and everyone's just looking down at them?
Yep.
What an illustration of defensible space.
Right.
So I started, so I thought, it's an interesting concept. It interested me when I decided to write a blog post on it. It continues to interest me. Maybe this is a concept I can expand into a full book. And that became How to Defend Your Lair. And so when that was the second half of the 2-book deal with more monsters.
So guys, 2 segments left, but we've started from the beginning. Now we're going to go current. We're going to talk about the new book that's just coming out. In fact, we're timing the release of this episode to the release of this book, Making Enemies. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's me. I'm interrupting this episode, and I hope you're enjoying it, and I bet you're anxious to hear the rest. But before we jump back, I need a favor. Do you know someone who might enjoy this episode? Can you shoot them a quick message or maybe even send them a link to it? Listeners sharing this podcast was the primary reason we almost doubled our audience last year. Also, would you like to see and hear these games in action? Go to the Third Floor Wars YouTube channel and Twitch stream. Our actual plays combine compelling role-playing, character-driven action, and system tutorials. We create great stories while lifting the hood and showcasing the game mechanics. Links to both are in the show notes. Okay, last thing, and I mean it. Have you rated this podcast on your pod platform yet? Maybe even written a short review? It is a simple way for you to be even more awesome than you already are. Okay, now I'm done. Let's jump back and listen to the rest of this episode.
In Making Enemies, Keith explores everything that goes into creating monsters from the ground up. Size, number, and the level of challenge. Monster habitats, monster motivations, monsters as metaphors, monsters and magic. The monstrous anatomy possessed by real-world organisms, and how to customize monsters for your own tabletop role-playing game adventuring party to confront. Making Enemies shows you how to build out your creations, not just for D&D 5e, but also for Pathfinder 2e, Shadow Dark, the Cypher system, and Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. So, is this something that came from the blog? Is this something that you got that was always itching? Like, where does the beginnings of what becomes Making Enemies?
Well, as you can imagine, the blog results in my being typecast a little bit.
Sure.
But I think the part of the original impetus came when I was interviewed on the podcast Mastering Dungeons by Teo Sabadia and Sean Merwin. And we were talking about the Monsters Know, and at one point they offhandedly referred to me as a designer of monsters. And I'm like, well, I don't really think of myself as a designer of monsters. I reverse engineer them.
Right.
I don't engineer them. I reverse engineer them. I see my role as being sort of more a critic or an exegete even than a designer. But then I started thinking about what it might be like to actually design them. When you reverse engineer enough of these things, you start to occasionally think, how would I have done that?
Right.
And I also, Teos, who publishes things online under the name AlphaStream, he did a YouTube video providing advice on how to decide what kinds of role-playing games supplement projects to work on. And so he actually broke it down in kind of a systematic way. He says to ask yourself, what kinds of products are you passionate about creating? Do you feel an urge, a drive to design your own core mechanics or game subsystems or ancestries / races / folk species, whatever term you want to use, classes and subclasses, spells, gear, feats, monsters? Do you want to write adventures? Do you want to write setting books? Do you want to give game advice, GM advice? Then he says, ask yourself, how much effort is this going to take you? How stressful is it going to be? How much is it going to drain you?
Yeah.
How time consuming will it be for you to do these things? Is this something you can do rapidly, or is it something that you have to drag out of yourself? And then finally, how much does it contribute to your goals or your sense of success? So I did what he suggested. I made a little spreadsheet, put down all these categories, gave each of them a rating from 0 to 10, and sorted them. And my top categories were game and GM advice, which is basically what I've been doing for the last, I guess, 7 years.
Yeah.
NPCs, which, is a lot of fun.
Yep.
But you only need so many rogues galleries.
Sure.
And monsters. And so between having been called a designer of monsters when I didn't think I'd actually earned the title yet, and this exercise in prioritization of what I was going to work on next made me think, yeah, all right, so I've talked about designing lairs. Now let's talk about designing monsters. And at the time, around the time when I was trying to figure out what to follow up How to Defend Your Lair with, two things happened. The first is they announced that they were going to come out with a 50th anniversary republishing revision of the core books. And I thought, whoa, well, that is likely to necessitate a revision of the Monsters No.
Right.
But I can't start working on that until I see the new Monster Manual.
Right.
So that's definitely in my future, but it's also a ways off.
Yep.
And I cannot make it come any closer. The second thing was the OGL fiasco.
Yep.
Which made a lot of people question whether D&D was a system they wanted to keep playing.
Yep.
The third thing that happened, this was in the middle of 2022, inflation hit, and I watched my book sales just drop by 50%.
Oh.
So I saw that and thought, okay, I got to write something else to tide me over in the meantime until I can do that revision of the Monsters.
Yeah.
something has to happen in this time in between, this intervening time. So making enemies is what I settled on.
So we've kind of got a sense of the approach and the on-ramp to What the Monsters Know from the blog, right? So your ideas start there. You've got a decent bank to begin with. There's new writing that happens, but there's a lot of revising and things that happen. Whereas Making Enemies is a bit whole cloth. So can you give me an idea of, once you decided I am going to write a book about how to make monsters, what is the first step that you go through?
The first step was driving back from summer vacation in the North Woods of Wisconsin in August 2022, with my spouse in the seat next to me with a notepad, writing things down while I just spout off ideas that come into my head. That was the first step. Okay, if I'm thinking about how to create a monster, how to design a monster, where am I drawing my ideas from? And blah, 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 blah. And her just writing it all down as I say it. That is literally how it went. And at that time, the working title, which lasted very, very long into the process, was Monster Lab.
Okay.
Now, I talked about working in the alternative press. One of the things about the alternative press, I don't know when you last picked up an alternative weekly newspaper in your city. How long it's been? I mean, a lot of them have gone out of business.
Yeah.
It's the loss of classified ads. Oh my God. Craigslist murdered the weekly alternative newspaper.
Yeah, I bet it did.
But when you write stories, you write your own headlines, and the headlines always have to have that kind of clever, knowing twist to them, they refer to some song lyric or some saying or what have you. Sure. You always gotta have that clever little headline.
Take me back to college.
Yeah,
the Independent at Chapel Hill. I remember it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, when I came up with the name of the blog, I'm like, I like this name. This is a good name. Every book I've written so far, I've felt like, that's a good title. That's going to be catchy. It's going to get people's attention. They're going to want to buy the book. Monster Lab was the first title I came up with that made me think, man, this is okay for now, but I got to come up with something better than this. This is not clever. This is not going to grab people. It was literally like the day before I sent my editor the final draft manuscript that I'm like, I cannot send this to him called Monster Lab. I got to come up with something better. And I brainstormed I don't know, maybe 10 titles and picked the 4 or 5 that I thought were the best and sent them to him. But actually, of those 4 or 5, I kind of in my gut already knew that Making Enemies was the best.
It's a great title. It's a great title, and it's very funny, Keith, because it does have that alternative press kind of double meaning. And
that is an alternative press title, right there.
Very much so, very much so. So guys, like I mentioned, as we're recording this before it released, but obviously we're going to release this episode. So you're listening to this. The book is available. As always, all the links and everything are down below. You can go ahead and grab it. And I'll help coordinate, Keith, on your side when the best time to drop this. But we are going to take one more break, and we're going to stop talking about all the shit that Keith makes. We're going to start to find out what Keith consumes. I'm going to find out from Keith one thing worth sharing. We'll be right back.
Are you enjoying our long-form interviews with creatives on this podcast? Maybe you're craving deeper discussions about our guests or some of the RPG plays on our Twitch and YouTube channel. Well, I've got an opportunity for you. You see, Third Floor Wars now has a Patreon-only Discord server. You can join a vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts diving deep into every episode of our RPG plays and podcast. Connect with fans, engage in spirited discussions, and unlock the behind-the-scenes insights. For just $1 a month, access a world of tabletop gaming goodness. Connect with passionate gamers who share your love for the Tabletop Podcast and everything produced on the third floor. As a Patreon supporter, you also enjoy ad-free episodes of this podcast. You can immerse yourselves in captivating stories and fascinating interviews without interruptions, taking your listening experience to a whole new level. By joining the Third Floor Wars Patreon community, you not only gain exclusive access to the Patreon-only Discord server, but you also support the growth of my podcast and channels. Your contributions enable me to continue creating high-quality content that entertains, educates, and upskills tabletop enthusiasts like yourself. Maybe don't wait. Join the Third Floor Wars Patreon today and unlock a world of camaraderie, discussions, and knowledge. Visit patreon.com/Third Floor Wars or check the link in the show notes and come join our community. The Third Floor Wars Patreon-only Discord server awaits you. I and the other patrons can't wait to welcome you with open arms and a fistful of dice.
So this is how I like to always end my interviews, Keith, and it's to really kind of do the bookend to the conversation, right? We started from the very beginning. We've walked through a lot of your career, a lot of the creative process that you go through to make what you make. But I think it's also interesting to talk to creatives to find out what are they grooving on? What are things that they find interesting? So is there a TV show, a book, an RPG, a video game, something that's recently got its hooks into you the same way your books have gotten its hooks into others?
So I played Baldur's Gate 3 like everybody else, and then once I felt like I'd squeezed all the juice out of that, then I went to Dragon Age Veilguard, which I'd been waiting for ages because I was a huge fan of Dragon Age Inquisition. And once I felt like I'd gotten all the juice out of that, which sadly was after only 2 playthroughs.
Ooh.
Yeah, Veilguard was okay. There were things about it I really liked.
Right.
It was no Inquisition.
It was perfectly fine.
It was perfectly fine. I actually saw some critic today. Well, I didn't read the article today, but I read that a critic had described it as wanting very much to chew your food for you.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
very interesting.
That's I think that's on target.
Yeah.
Anyway, after that, I went to my, the Steam has its sales, and I went to my wish list and bought some of the smaller, cheaper indie games that I've been that I've just had sitting on my wish list for a long time and haven't gotten to because I was playing the AAA stuff. And if I may say, there are 2 that just really bowled me over. Chants of Sennar and Tactical Breach Wizards.
Okay, so I know the second one and I can't wait to hear you talk about it, but I don't know the first one, so let's start there.
Chants of Sennar is just such a beautiful game, and it is catnip for a linguistics nerd like me. You go through the game, and you are basically like trying to learn an ideographic language.
Interesting.
Based on environmental cues and situational cues and various other context clues. And then once you've mastered that language, then you have to master a different one, and then a different one. And the environmental storytelling in this game is beautiful.
Oh, that's
beautiful. So cool. It's an interesting story. It's a total work of art. Chants of Sennaar. Sennaar. So wonderful. You do definitely have to have kind of a knack for languages.
Yeah.
To get it. But I 10 out of 10, A+++++ would recommend to anybody. And then Tactical Breach Wizards is just so if you've read the introduction to The Monsters Know, you know that I learned a lot about tactical thinking by playing XCOM Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2. Loved those games. And Tactical Breach Wizards is like, what if XCOM, except you're a team of wizard commandos? Yeah, it's a kooky concept, and the concept itself drew me in, but then I started playing the game.
Yep.
And thought, oh my God, this writing is the cleverest writing since Borderlands 2.
You talk about having a voice, right? The game has a voice.
The game definitely has a voice.
Yeah.
And Chants of Sennaar has a voice, but it's a visual and philosophical voice.
Yeah, it's the Wizards surprised me. It was a very similar experience. I was surprised at the tactical depth of the game. The game is actually very interesting from a tactical strategy standpoint, but it's also just a shit ton of fun too. It's not dry whatsoever. So the one I'm going to bring to the table is something that I would have never dreamed that I would be wanting to share with anybody. So when I first heard that there was going to be an Alien TV series, I thought, well, we're milking that thing, aren't we? It's, how much are we going to do? Which is funny because I was skeptical of the role-playing game. I didn't think that there was enough game there, with such a limited scope. And I was 100% wrong there because the Alien RPG is absolutely phenomenal. And ironically, I feel like Alien Earth in its own way also kind of captures what the role-playing game does, which is, for me, the first Alien movie is one of my all-time favorite movies, let alone one of my all-time favorite horror movies. But what I love about it is the world. What Ripley does in that, what Ridley does in that movie is he doesn't lore dump you. He just surrounds the movie with that world, and it feels lived in, and you want to know more about it. And you realize that yes, there is a Geiger monster running around, but really it's the corporate horror that's here, and the world, and these blue collars. We kill who you think the hero is right from the beginning. Like, it's just a phenomenal movie. And I'm not by any way selling Alien Earth as good as the first movie. I don't, that's silliness. But what I did like in the first 2 episodes that I saw of it is that it acknowledged what was interesting, which is, what does this world feel like? And what does Earth feel like? And what is happening there? And it leans into the corporate horror. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the 3rd episode, and I didn't anticipate that would be the case.
And that brings us full circle, doesn't it? Because, making your adventuring world, your adventuring setting, your adventuring locale feel lived in
100%
is one of the things I'm trying to help dungeon masters achieve in all my books.
Well, boy, if that wasn't a writer move, I don't know what which one is. You put a nice period at the end of the interview, my friend. So guys, as you know, everything that we've talked about is in the show notes. Just scroll down and grab it. Keith, on a Tuesday night, there's a lot of really great things to do, including breaching with a bunch of wizards, but you chose to spend it with me, and I very much appreciate that.
Thanks again for inviting me.
For those of you listening, guess what? You made it. This is the end, and I appreciate you sticking around for it. If you've got enough spoons, take care of yourself. If you have a few extra, take care of somebody else. Did you want to do a bumper, Keith?
Yeah, I thought for a moment about how I would change that, but
Feel free. That's mine is just
but
a suggestion.
I didn't finish thinking about it. So
I cannot wait to tell Sean and Avi that you like Court of Blades. They'll get a kick out of that.
I really enjoyed
They'll
Court
get a
of
kick out
Blades
of that.
a lot. I was like a little stuck for words there for a moment, but
You were great.
Like genre is not quite the right word for it, but what is the word I'm looking for? It's
It's not style, because I know what you're saying.
yeah. The milieu, I guess. I don't know. I love this. It's like, I'm leaving pauses here so you can edit this in if you want. It's sort of like a cross between Venice and Restoration France, with a little bit of magic thrown in, and it's just aesthetically, it's magnificent.
I completely agree. And the houses and the intrigue of the houses is a really neat way of handling the faction piece of Blades of the Dark. So yeah, totally with you. Totally with you.
Yes. And my players chose to play House Bastien.
Very nice.
So they were the the house of the people.
Yep.
And it just felt really
House
good.
Bastion always ends up turning into a revolution. So all right. So Keith, when I come back here, we'll talk about the monsters. I'm going to force you to really rack your memory. I'm going to try to go back to the day before the idea of the book came, and then we'll just kind of walk through to publishing. Does that sound all right? All right. Keith, you're very good at this, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, very, very good.
I've also done broadcasting. I've done a lot of different stuff.
It shows. It shows. It shows. This has been excellent. All right, I'll bring us back. Similar type thing. Hey, are you still here? Look, the podcast is over. And you sat through all of the breaks and bloopers? Well, I mean, if you're here, you might as well run over to patreon.com and become a supporter. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast too while you're at it, on whatever platform you're listening to. I do appreciate you sticking around. Take care.